welcome. Welcome, travellers. It's so wonderful to have you here. Ko Oliver Bruce Tokowingoa. I am a principal here in the investment team at Blackbird. I am really stoked to have you here today in Shed 10, just down the road from our ASB Theatre, which is where we've been doing it for the last couple of years. Our next guest, who I'm going to bring up, is going to do a presentation, and then we are going to be doing a Q&A. So, again, there'll be a slider that'll come up. I really encourage you to drop in questions. I'll be doing the questions with her afterwards. But without further ado, I want to welcome on one is, in my mind, one of the most impressive founders in New Zealand, the co-founder of Sharesies, Brooke Roberts.
Kia ora tātou, ke te mihi o ke te mana whenua e tēnei rohe tūnei au. So great to be here. My favourite part of today so far has been when Sam started, when you showed that photo of Layden's awkward arms. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but it is comedy gold in Sharesies. So ko waio, who am I? I'm Brooke. I'm one of the co-founders and co-CEOs at Sharesies. I'm also a founder rep on the Icehouse Ventures board. I'm also a mother of two, like my mate Kat here. I've just had a blast creating Sharesies over the last 6 or 7 years, but you'll hear a little bit about how it's been a bit of a roller coaster too. I grew up around Aotearoa and Tauranga, and then now live down in Te Whanganui-a-Tara. And I grew up seeing kind of two worlds. I was my mum's only child, and then on my father's side, I'm the oldest of 5. And growing up, when I would be with my mum, I could go to athletics, could do dance class, like there was kind of a little bit more disposable income in the house. And then growing up with my dad, there was just like absolutely no chance of any of us 5 having those kind of opportunities. There was heaps of love and araha in our whānau, but it was really hard to make ends meet. And I used to just kind of hate this inequity that I felt quite strongly as a child. And I hated that my siblings didn't get some of the opportunities that I got. And so I think that something that drives me strongly is like, how do we create more equitable opportunities? And so with Sharesies' purpose, it feels really core and connected to my passion, as Sam talked about, which is, our whole purpose at Sharesies is to create financial empowerment for everyone. And the way that we do that is by giving someone with $5 and $5 million the same money opportunities. And I'll talk you a little bit through how we've kind of expanded into that. But before I do, who here is Sharesies investor? Woohoo! I love that. All right, I'm going to hit it harder now. Who here is a Sharesies saver? Oh, cool. Yay, love that. So we launched a save product this year, and it blew our expectations, like met its year target within a couple of months. I was just like, okay. So, and we wanted to find a way where people could get on-call access really and good interest rates at the same time. All right, even harder. Who here is a Sharesies Kiwi saver? Oh, cool. There's a few in the house. So this is like low-key under the radar. It's not actually really launched above the line too much yet, but you'll start seeing more and more of that over the coming time. And what we're really excited about with KiwiSaver is we've made it so there's a proportion of self-select, so you can actually choose what you want to invest in, up to 50% of your KiwiSaver flow, but only 5% into individual equities. And why that's important to us is because we really want people to feel like an investor and connected to where the majority of their wealth is, which for a lot of people here in Aotearoa is in KiwiSaver. Quickly, some other things that we do, and then I'll get into kind of the years. We also do company partnerships, and this is probably maybe a part that most people don't know about us, is we really care about connecting companies with people and vice versa. So help get in there and get good equity raise opportunities for Sharesies shareholders. Also, staff shares. Really think that if any of you get ESOP, yeah, good. Some of you, yeah. I think you should make sure all your companies are giving ESOP. I think it's really important that you get access to the equity that you're creating in your company. And then we've got this portal which helps companies. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a depth of, I think a lot of people may know Sharesies is investing, and we've kind of branched out a lot over the last year, really. So I thought I would dive into having a little quick look-see at our journey and maybe what we do now in terms of how we approach challenges. And you can see there's a real strong roller coaster ride there with a little dip, but on the way up. So back in 2017, that's when we kicked off, and there's 6 of us that co-founded Sharesies. And I think that the most important thing we did in 2017, and Tim referenced it, was we set our values as a founding team within the first week or 2 of creating Sharesies, or deciding to go full-time on it. And what we did there is we sat down at a cafe and we talked about what type of company do we want to create? What are experiences we've had working in companies before that we never want to have in our company? And I just bullet pointed all of the answers down to the questions, and then our values automatically themed out of that. So I still reflect as like that was one of the most productive and best meetings we've had, because as Tim mentioned, your values are intrinsic to how your culture kind of flourishes. But we also were storming and forming. I mean, we were figuring out our communication styles. We wouldn't know each other that well. We had some really robust conversations, but that has really helped us, stay really strong and core to Sharesies today too. 2018 was a total mum blur. After 2 or so months into quitting my full-time job and starting Sharesies, I was hapu, so all I've known is creating Sharesies and creating a whānau, and it's been hectic as, and honestly, I don't even remember this year much. It's total blur. 2019, we are a B Corp like Allbirds, and you have to have a year's worth of revenue before you can apply to be a B Corp. So we became certified, but we ended up being the cool place to work. And this actually has a shadow side, where at the start you're recruiting people, and people are coming because they really care about your purpose and what you're doing. What we've learnt you've got to be really careful of is when people are coming because they think it's a cool place to work. That's like the side benefit, but you've really got to give a shit. It's hard work, really taking this complex world and making it simple and making it more equitable. And that passion has got to drive the people every day. And so that was a really interesting kind of shadow side of being a cool place that I really wasn't aware of. 2020 was utter chaos. You can see we grew. We had to raise money really quickly. There was one point we had 70 cents in our bank account, because with NZX with these margin calls, if anyone wants to know a bit more about that, we'll explain it. But we quickly raised capital and kind of grew through that chaos. 2021, we got a bit in the naughty books. We weren't asking people who sign up to Sharesies these 2 questions, because we thought that the way that we'd structured Sharesies was that you just answered them in the terms and conditions. So then we had to go out and ask a bunch of people 2 questions, and if we didn't get that, we had to close their accounts, and that's what that dip is. We had to close a bunch of accounts, which was one of the hardest things to have to lead through when your whole thing is about making more access and more equitable, and also growing to then shutting accounts. So if anyone wants to talk about ever having to do that, hit me up. But we got through that, and we're on a way stronger footing there, and learnt a lot in terms of on our compliance journey, which we honestly thought we were fantastic at until we went through that. And then last year was the economic U-turn, which has, we are highly susceptible to what's happening in the markets, and given the breadth of products we offer now, that has changed significantly, and we've got a bit more diversified our revenue, I guess, in a way to be able to weather those storms a bit. But you'll hear about it probably often today, that real change in sentiment, with the whole journey of Sharesies, capital has been quite accessible to us. And then you just saw the shift in July and even just the shift in our shareholders and what the questions they're asking us, like when you're becoming profitable, what's going on with that product, what's going on, and a lot more focus on profitability a lot quicker. And not just like spend to grow, which has kind of been a little bit of kind of the journey that a lot of companies have been on over the last 10 years. So that shift, though, I think has really strengthened our business and actually made us make way better decisions in terms of how Sharesies grows. And so all of you going through capital raising, I know there's a session on that later today. Again, hit me up if you want to talk about anything there in Blackbird. But there is still money available, but there's definitely different kind of metrics and things that I feel VCs are looking at. And then this year has been really about expanding into our purpose, and with launching KiwiSaver and Save and our company partnerships, it really feels like there's kind of that strong momentum. And even though the start of this year was super difficult, we're starting to see a lot of that kind of hard work starting to pay off. So I wanted to briefly talk through the 3 ways we now approach challenges, because I think any time there was a challenge, because there's many, and Tim talked about those ones right at the start where you're just trying to see if this thing will have legs, and you have those people that say, I remember this one meeting I had, and they're like, you'll never get to 10,000 investors. It's absolutely no way, and they were at 600,000. There's just like, there's so many naysayers. But aside from that, you've got the challenges personally, like, are you growing enough? Are you the right person for the role anymore? Are you a good leader? Like there's these, I heard this really good quote about entrepreneurs have innate confidence, but at the same time, like a crippling daily belief that they might be wrong. And I don't know, does anyone relate to that? Yeah, yeah. And that really stuck with me. I was like, true. So how we now approach challenges, and I just want to say, each of you have your own journeys, and I'm not up here to preach this is the way to go about it. It's just what we've learnt and how we kind of inject that kind of the way that we think about dealing with challenges. But I'm really keen to hear about how you do too and kind of open that up. But how we go about approaching challenges now is really just surfing the waves, like knowing that business is up and down. No matter what business you're in, like you're signing yourself up for challenge, right? And that's kind of why you do it. It's like the fun of it. You're figuring out something new, you're problem solving, your passion is leading you through creating that change. And now I'm just so aware that these come that I've found a way to kind of within myself just surf the waves and kind of see the sets roll in, or might surprise me, but just try and not to kind of freak out, I guess, or just be like, just calm down and kind of just surf it and know that it's a luxury to be able to deal with these kind of problems or challenges and opportunities. The rua, the second kind of way that we look at it, is injecting that winning feeling. So, when we're having to close accounts, I was like, okay, how do we make this fun for the team? How do we really connect with people through this journey? We were calling, we were emailing, we were doing everything we could. But finding a way to just inject fun into it, like breaking down that milestone and making it fun. And like yesterday, there were just so many pings of cool wins happening at Sharesies internally, and it's all because we're just injecting that winning feeling on a daily basis and knowing that we've got each other. And I think this is the third most important thing, and I hope that all of you have a really strong support network, and I hope that you all start to create some more people today, because I think surrounding yourself with support is probably the thing that has guided me through this. Kat and I are part of a group of some female founders where we get together every week on a Friday and have a yarn about. Claudia helps run it, Claudia Batten, asks us some hectic questions and we all go through and answer it. And it's just really great to have that community around you when you normalize those hard times you're going through and you realize, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me that's finding it hard to raise capital if that's the problem, or it's not just me trying to figure out how to communicate in a better way that brings people on board, or whatever it might be. It's really great to know that there's other founders or other leaders or just other people out there that are going through that, and you can support each other. And I think that's something that really nourishes me and has helped me definitely in the most challenging times. And I remember this one time when I was doing something really difficult, I thought everyone would be repulsed, like they wouldn't want to help, and the amount of people that leant in and just would like come and bring me a cup of tea, or just be like, do you want to go for a walk? And it's like, oh my gosh, they actually really care about me, you know. And I think sometimes we're too afraid to ask for help when we need it, but it's really a really important thing to do, especially for a founder on the founder journey. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to do that alone. And I'm also really lucky that there's 6 of us that are co-founders that have got each other's back too. So I think with that support, injecting that winning feeling and just riding those waves, like that has helped us at Sharesies anyway, really be able to surf the waves that have come. And it's honestly such a blast to be able to do this. So I've got some times to ask, which is cool, to answer any questions you've got. So on your lanyards, you've got like a little QR code, and you can ask questions in Slido. And I'll get Oliver back up. But I just want to say thanks heaps for having me today. I'm around if you want to have a yarn. My email's there if you want to connect. I'm really keen to hear your stories and see how we can support each other. And kia ora, thanks so much for having me today.
Beautiful. Isn't she awesome? I've recently got acquainted with Brooke. I've been following your journey from afar, and it's been such an honor to get to know you in the last little while. So, wonderful. Okay, so folks, look, we've got, as Brooke said, we've got some questions that are coming in. If you jump in the Slido, they'll get upvoted, and then we can kind of just work through them. But while we're doing that, we've got a couple that are coming in. I do want to start off with 6 co-founders. That sounds like that is very unique. I would love to hear that, and then especially because with the sharing of the CEO role, how does that work on a day-to-day basis, especially when stuff gets tough?
Yeah, so there's 6 co-founders, and 3 of us went full-time at the start, Layden, Sonya and I. Layden and I are husband and wife too, and Layden, Sonya and I are 3 EOs, so co-CEOs, just to make sure that's all clear. So we're highly decentralized in that way. Honestly, Sharesies couldn't have started without the 6 founders. There's absolutely no way. We operate in a highly regulated industry. We're taking super complex and archaic systems and trying to make them, as accessible and simple as possible. So having a designer and developers as part of our founding team was crucial. And Layden and Sonya and I too, we've actually got really overlapping skills, and that was kind of part of that 2017 going, okay, well, we're all interested in all of the parts of the business, but what are the parts that we naturally are maybe a bit better at, and then kind of honing in on those. So honestly, the 6 founders, we're still like great mates. We weren't friends when we started either, by the way. We didn't actually know each other that well, so that's why taking that time to really build those connections, not just with them, but with their partners and their family. We are really like a family, I guess, in that regard. And then the co-CEO, or the 3EO model, is so fun. Like I was the CEO, and I do inverted brackets, inverted commas, sorry, because we were told we had to. We're part of an accelerator program, and we were just bashing our heads against the wall, this whole accelerator program. But one that we didn't manage to bash through was that they said, no, you have to pick a CEO. And so Layden, Sonya and I sat down, and I was a CEO for 3 years, but they really were too. Like we didn't really operate like there was that kind of hierarchy internally. But what was interesting was society's perspective of the things that would come to me versus all of us, and that didn't seem right. And when I went on maternity leave, I'd come back and when I was on maternity leave, Sonya and Layden would be co-CEOs, and then I came back, and then I went on maternity leave, and then the next time I came back, I was like, I talked with Layden and Sonya, and I was like, what if we just 3EO'd it? And then I talked to our board. They were like, oh, you'll never get that passed, Ellie. And she was like, let's trial it. So I was like, let's do a 6-month trial. So we trialed it, and then, it's just gone really well. We've done that for the last 3 or so years. And I think what I love about it is kind of the shared consciousness on decision making. I think we can move a lot faster because Layden, Sonya and I are really good at knowing what each other's strengths are and who cares the most about something. And that's kind of the principle we use, like who cares the most, and if they do, they can make the decision. I think it just like lighter shoulders, when you can kind of share that responsibility.
I can imagine that's a very active WhatsApp chat between the 3 of you. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we've got a question in here from Will. Can you share more about the 76 cents and the margin call scenario that you mentioned? Okay. All right.
So during COVID, the markets in particular, all the markets, but we're a new NZX participant. So that means that we're regulated by the NZX, and we directly interface to do our trades with the NZX. And I'm going to try and make this short, but when you place a trade, there's T+2, so there's like 2 days until that trade settles, and you need to use company money, so like Sharesies money, not client money, not yours, to kind of for this thing called a margin call. So say if a trade, usually it's around say 5% of a trade, but during COVID when there's volatility, they're like, actually you need to put 30%. So for instance, the amount of money we had to have for the NZX went from $30,000 to $6 million, like kind of really quickly overnight. Yeah, wow. So that we just had to have there for this T+2 kind of situation. So it was pretty hectic, but we were luckily able to raise 5 million, then 5 million, then 5 million, and now have a way better kind of a debt structure and all this kind of stuff set up to manage if that happened again. But yeah, it was pretty chaotic times. And I also had a 2-week-old baby, and we're in lockdown, so it was, I honestly, another part I don't really remember.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Cool. There's a question here asking about what are the specific challenges that you've had as a female founder?
I appreciate this question. I always find it really hard because I don't know any other way. It's just like, so I find it quite difficult. I'm a founder who happens to be female, and I think, the one obvious one that comes to my mind, which a question say that Layden doesn't get that I get. I went to a meeting the other day, and the guy's like, "Oh, so where's your kids?" And I was like, "Oh, well, they're not at this meeting with us at 11 a.m." But happy to bring them. I'd actually quite like that. Or when I was hapu, I was raising money both times I was pregnant. So if anyone wants to talk about that, happy to. And I actually didn't get too much stick for it, but at the start I did, when someone's like, "Well, how's this company going to run when you're off looking after your baby?" And then literally a week later, Jacinda got pregnant, and none of those questions came again. I was like, if she can run the country, I can manage this, And so those are just 2 examples that come to mind.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. There's a great one here from Will again. How do you inject the winning feeling while also allowing people to be constructively negative?
Yeah, I think the negative part's the interesting aspect of that question. I think it's so important to give constructive feedback, but I have quite a different style to Leighton in this approach, and in terms of giving feedback, and I think they both work really well. My style is, I think I have this maybe a self-belief in a way that I don't want to leave people in a worse off than me first meeting them, say, so I don't want to, I kind of am naturally very positive and optimistic in a way, but I always think giving feedback it's from a place of growth. Like, you have so much deep care for this person or these people that you actually like, hey, if this is why I think you should be thinking about this thing. But if you see something that's completely out of behavior and in line with your values, definitely always have to call that out. Like, that's not winning for the rest of the team if there's kind of that happening. But thankfully, really haven't experienced too much of that at Sharesies. But I think giving feedback is a massive win, and the biggest compliment you could give somebody by actually taking that care to give them that feedback. So give me some too. I love it, and I know that you care for me. But I think it's important that is part of that winning culture.
Yep.
Is like knowing how to take, yeah.
Beautiful. There's a question here, obviously, about how do you inject fun and keep the team motivated. And I want to layer on just one thing in there, which is, like you talk about the injecting the winning feeling. What are the tactical things that you've done?
I think one important part is to be super transparent. So in every team meet, like, hey, here's how we're tracking. This is, if it's going off, or if it's green, red, or amber, and then this is what we're doing about it. And I think mistakes we've made in the past is set. I think OKRs or objectives should be probable but not completely possible, like that it's possible you can do it, but maybe the probability is low. So like 80% chance you can reach it all. But that's important, because if you start to think differently and set up different systems if you're thinking at growing into a bigger thing, essentially, shooting for the moon, you might aim amongst the stars. So that's a way that we think about our OKR setting. But then with teams and looking at them individually, thinking about what's a win they could get this week, or like what's something they could feel really great about, and even if how do you turn that momentum around? Because often if you start, like in the past when we've set a way too much of an ambitious goal for something, with no real systems in place or processes or ways of thinking to help us get there, you're ultimately like there's this drag on the team, where they never feel like they're getting there. So we decided we're in places like chunk that up a bit more and be like, how do we make, what does winning tomorrow look like, and then start to get that positive momentum, because once you get that, then that momentum creates optimism, which creates momentum, which creates a winning feeling, which enables you to get bigger, so or reach bigger goals. So it's not a straightforward answer in that regard, but it's something kind of being tapped into all the time in the back of my mind, like how do I make these people feel like there's a win here, or that there's a way to kind of move forward in the challenging times.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. What did you learn that was good or bad? This is a question from Lowry.
Yeah.
Lowry. What did you learn, good or bad, at KiwiBank and Xero that helped you start and grow Sharesies?
Cool. I love that I left both KiwiBank and Xero at incredible times. Like, it was really hard for me to make the choice to leave KiwiBank to join Xero, and then again to leave Xero to start Sharesies. I loved working there, and when I was at both those companies, they were growth companies, really purpose-driven. KiwiBank in particular, like Kiwi Hub and Kiwi Be Better Off, it felt like so what I wanted to do. Had incredible growth opportunities and leadership opportunities at both those places. At KiwiBank, I learned a lot about emotional intelligence, actually. I could not understand how people couldn't make rational decisions, and then I learned, I actually need to bring people on the journey, and blah blah blah. And I've learned a lot more about emotional intelligence, and to the point now where people think it's one of my strengths, and I'm like, man, I had to really work on that. and then at Xero, I learned how to grow something from here globally, and just seeing Rod's energy injected into everything was just magical. And now reflecting on how he would behave and what he would do as a founder, I'm like, I totally get why he would do that now, you know. And so awesome like that. I think bad maybe just in banking in general, just no matter how purpose-driven you are, there's just ways that could be way more less opaque, I guess, in terms of the opportunities there. And at Xero, I don't know, I have to think about that a bit more.
Yeah, beautiful. Cool. Oh, and by the way, just one of these wonderful things. So Brooke and I were talking yesterday, and she's like, I don't want to be one of those people who just turns up, and does my speech and then walks out again. I always vowed to never be one of those people, so she's committed to stay around for the rest, for a bit more of the day. So please come and see her after this. I love that, by the way.
Thanks.
Cool. So if you want to ask where the bad was about Xero, that's where you go. You go find her, and she had more time to think about it.
I do. I've got some that came to mind now.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
I just had some leaders I learned from that I learned what I would not do as a manager.
Catch you.
I had to tell. I'll tell you this story. I shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to. I had to tell somebody that my manager at the time that somebody in my life was going through some hectic health issues, right? As soon as I started talking, I dragged him to a room to tell him this. As soon as I started talking, he had his hand, he could tell it was awkward news. He had his hand on the door handle the entire time. I'd been at KiwiBank learning emotional intelligence, right? I was like, this is not emotionally intelligent. He's like, I want to get out of here, So it's just funny little examples like that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Will, you're very active wherever you are.
Well.
Thank you very much. When trialing the 3EO, what success metrics did you measure?
And if, Will, you want to find out any more about this too, I can definitely share more in depth. We wanted to, I guess it was more about, at this time, all I could kind of see was how it would do well. So it was more about proving that it wouldn't do the things that people were scared of, that it would slow us down, or that it would... people wouldn't know who to come to, or some other issues that I was trying to think through. What are the things that, or that the marketplace wouldn't get it, And I was like, well, that doesn't matter. Does it help us?
Who are they?
We can create the new in that regard.
Yes.
And the slowing us down, I think people really saw the power in it. It probably took us a while to help the team know kind of who to go to, but what Leighton, Sonya and I committed to is it's up to us to make sure we're keeping each other informed. It's not up to everybody, it's not up to people in the team to try and make sure that all three of us know something, So we just had to have a really strong communication, which luckily we had trained ourselves on over the last few years. So I actually have a whole slide with all the success metrics and the feedback we got after the 6-month trial, and then why we decided to continue on. So I'm happy to share that at some stage. But
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have plans to? This is another anonymous question. Do you have any plans to expand globally? What weighs in your decision whether or what new markets to enter?
Yeah. So we see Asia Pacific as a massive opportunity for Sharesies, and right now really focusing on Aotearoa and Australia. We were dipping our toes in Singapore, then COVID hit. It was going to take quite a while to get our license. again, back to Tim talking about purpose, we were finding it difficult to figure out how we could fractionalise a Singapore Stock Exchange, which I'm sure we will tackle one day. And then it was like with everything else happening and, trying to raise capital and all that, we decided to tie-ho on that. So, Australian Aotearoa is our key focus at the moment.
Awesome. Any plans to go into crypto?
You talk to Tony about that.
Sorry, I'm poking the bear. Anyway, okay. Any advice for pre-revenue founders?
So when we were pre-revenue, we were told there's no way you're going to be able to raise money without having a product or having revenue. It feels like, I know a lot of founders, and I've talked to quite a few, it just feels like, cool, well then I'll get some revenue on. Then you get some revenue, like, oh, well now we need to see a bigger pipeline. And you're just like, I think it feels like the goalpost moves, but just stay strong to your passion and your team, and honestly, that oversells a lot of things. So we were fortunate, and again, it was a different economic environment, but we were able to raise pre-revenue, even though people said there's no way we would be able to at that time. But we did because we had something that people really gave a damn about. They wanted to see more financial empowerment. They wanted to see this, investing become more accessible. We had a really strong team. Like, people really believed that our team could do it, given, the skills that we had around the table. And just like that conviction, I think, helped us. And we got a convertible note, which is kind of helpful pre-revenue because you kind of don't know if you want to value the company at that stage. But those are some things. And then I do think it's really important pre-revenue, because it's not just talking about capital here, is really knowing your company's business model, like knowing how you're going to make money. Like, we're for purpose and profit, and you need to know, like, really clearly the kind of scalability of that. And I think once you know that, everything else kind of hums. And once you can prove it too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just for context, because I actually don't know this, 2017, were there any other any other companies that are doing that? Because I remember at the time trying to set up a share trading account. I had to go to ASB, and they were doing it. Not that I have anything against ASB, but it was a terrible user experience.
It was just ASB Securities, really. I think there's like ANZ Securities, but there wasn't anything like what there is now. And also, like, Simran's here from Girls That Invest, like, there wasn't I think probably started around the similar time, like, there wasn't much information out there about, how to develop wealth or how to have access to it. And so I think there's been way more information in that regard too, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Okay, Lindsay, how do you think about focusing on the New Zealand market versus an ambition to grow internationally, especially with the current market conditions?
Yeah. So one thing we did at the start of this year, which I think has been really helpful for this kind of, in some ways, split focus, but it's not. Like, the overarching purpose is still the same, but the market dynamics are very different in Australia. And the people's behaviour. But we set up kind of 4 businesses in Sharesies. So you've got New Zealand Invest and Save, Australia Company Partnerships, and KiwiSaver. And we've set each of these companies up, and they've got what they need to succeed. So they've got a GM on each of them. They've got product, marketing, design, tech, all reporting into each of them. And before we didn't have it this way. Now, maybe some of you are like, of course you do it that way. But before we didn't, and that enables us to just hum. Like, it just means that people have what they need in the shared context to be able to make the right decisions and so it doesn't feel as scattered. Where, we do have marketing and central tech and kind of people experience run throughout it, but and commercial and finance. But having those 4 businesses just humming means that it doesn't feel like there's a split focus there. Like, they've got what they need to be able to achieve in their markets. Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful. All right, we've got time for one final question. So, Mike asks, how do you make new hires feel like part of the team and connected to your why, especially as your team has grown so much?
Yeah, we. How do we do this? There's heaps of ways. We do induction. They do meet with people that join do meet with someone in the founding team. We also try to have somebody from the founding team as part of the interviews too. And it's not actually for us to judge them. It's more like, so there's not this kind of weird perceptual hierarchy. So either us or the exec team need to be in there to know that you got, like mates, I guess, throughout the company.
Yep.
just one thing I'm very aware of is I want to make sure if we have our team demo or something that nobody is left alone, especially if they're joined, that there's somebody that's buddied up with them. And I think that there's a bunch of kind of small things we do that kind of add up.
Yeah, beautiful. Because how big is the team now?
Around 150.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Hey, well, folks, please thank Brooke Roberts for coming in and sharing with us today.
Cool, thank you.
It was
Thank you
awesome.
for that. Appreciate
Most
it.
welcome.
Cool.